All right, welcome to another Zoom call. We got a bunch of questions to go through. And again, another reminder ad nauseum for people who've been with me. If you have questions between Zoom calls, make sure you look at our blog on our regular website, not on our member site, but on our regular website. And you can search that blog for different topics. I have at least 400 blog posts or so, and maybe we've talked about that. Also, be checking back with the membership site on a regular basis because we are adding things. If you're not on the membership site yet, you're missing out on things. Make sure you email me to get on there. You'll see different announcements on that membership site. And one of the announcements that's new the last 3 weeks is we've added another Zoom call on Mondays at noon with Anne. And she will go over questions as best she can as well. So we've also added a page on genetic reviews, and I also added some information in the detox protocol on how to do, it's in the detox page, in the detoxification page. So on the detoxification, says I'm going to have a typing. On the detoxification page, I added information because I've shared this information on multiple Zoom calls, but I have not had it written down. I added information on what I call the lazy man's way to do coffee enemas. Because that's how I did coffee enemas when I was doing them, and I know that there's a proper way to do coffee enemas, and we have that all over our website, tons of information on that. I did never do them that way, exactly. So I did the lazy man's way of coffee enemas, and I share that on there now on the detoxification page. And I've shared that with a lot of you people individually when I've spoken with you, because people that don't do coffee enemas typically don't do them because it's such a pain to brew the coffee the right way, and I can't lay down and lay on my side and do all that. It's too hard to get up, blah, blah, blah. And I understand that. So I share my way how to do an easy way to do coffee enemas, where you're just standing in the shower, you're not laying down, you're not rolling on the side, you're not doing all those things. You're just standing in the shower, inserting the tube in your rectum and try to get as much in and hold it as long as possible, and step out of the shower and step to the toilet when you have to void. So I give that detail on that detoxification page. So if you're not doing coffee enemas because it's too much of a pain, or you don't feel like you can lay down or anything, please read that section. All right, to our questions. Dr. V is the breast cancer conqueror who I've interviewed a couple times, and she's interviewed me a couple times, I think. A great gal up in Canada. She referenced a study that she found about reishi mushrooms that just should be avoided by people doing with hormone positive cancers. I've seen that, but I don't necessarily agree with every study that's out there. There's a lot of studies on reishi and breast cancer that it's beneficial. So this says, should I avoid that? And that's in the medicinal mushrooms. I'm wondering if there's a reishi-free version. I don't have a reishi-free version of the medicinal mushroom powder. We do have reishi-free versions of mushrooms. Our turkey tail mushroom. Turkey tail is probably the most potent for breast cancer. And we have a private labeled turkey tail, which is a totally organic turkey tail, a great product with no excipients in it, that we just came out with. That might be a choice. How do you increase albumin levels? Protein absorption. So albumin and globulin are two proteins that are measured in a blood test that's typically called the complete metabolic profile. And albumin and globulin are often decreased in cancer patients. So matter of fact, let's say a person doesn't even know they have cancer and they go and they just get routine blood work. And if their albumin and or their globulin is decreased, that is considered one of the few ominous signs in routine blood work. So in routine blood work, you go and get a CBC and a complete metabolic panel. There's nothing in there that's going to tell you you have cancer. That's why some people will talk to me and go, I can't figure out why I have cancer. I've been getting regular blood work every year and it's always perfect. Well, the reason is that there's nothing in regular blood work, like a CBC or a metabolic panel or even a thyroid panel or most blood work that's out there, unless you're doing a tumor marker test, that's going to suggest cancer. So if you can have a stage 4 cancer and still have complete normal blood work. But there are what are called ominous signs in blood work that should tee off a practitioner like, there's something going on here. Ominous signs for cancer. One of them is decreased albumin or decreased globulin. Another one is sharply decreased cholesterol. So when you have these fats and these proteins that are produced in the liver that are decreased, that can be a sign of cancer. Now, most people think, like this person who asked the question is thinking that, well, should I eat a whole bunch more protein? Because albumin and globulin are proteins, but that's the problem. I'm not absorbing enough protein. It really has nothing to do with the amount of protein that you're eating or your lack thereof of absorption of protein. Albumin and globulin levels in the blood have to do with liver function, not really anything to do with protein absorption or consumption. So the treatment for low levels of albumin would not be to increase protein per se, though you can increase, you can take some protein powder or something like that, as long as your cancer isn't driven by protein and amino acids. But really the treatment is to treat the liver. So you're really ultimately the treatment is to be working on treating the cancer, which of course, if you're a patient done this listening to this right now, you are doing that. So some other things that you can do for this other than treating the cancer is going back to our coffee enemas. So go back to this detoxification page. If you're not doing coffee enemas, start with the lazy man's way of doing coffee enemas and work up from there. So really supporting liver function is your key. Supporting liver function is your key. Also look at the detoxification. On that detoxification page, you can download my book on the 7 phases of detox. That might be helpful as well. Doing hot packs over your liver, just some other things, physical things you could do, and castor oil packs over your liver could be beneficial as well. Next question, is a hyperthermia unit ideal for subcutaneous lesions that are out of the skin? So by definition, a subcutaneous lesion is still under the skin. So I'm not sure I'm answering this question correctly. But maybe it's, so the bottom line is, what is the hyperthermia unit good for? So the hyperthermia unit will raise the temperature of the tissue down maybe an inch or so. So if your cancer is deeper than that, it may not do anything. So let's say if you have prostate cancer, should I get a hyperthermia unit? No, probably not. If I have breast cancer, should I get a hyperthermia unit? Yeah, maybe. Yeah, that might be perfect for that. Liver cancer, I don't know. No, we've had patients with pancreatic cancer that have seen phenomenal symptomatic changes in hyperthermia. The gal who is the researcher from Japan, who I get the hyperthermia units from, spoke to me about a month ago about a person that she had doing it with just chronic pain issues. I can't remember what it was from. I think it was some horrible automobile accident that it helped with that person. So If you have a lesion that is a skin lesion, like a skin cancer, hey, hyperthermia might be great for it. If you have a lesion that's within an inch of the surface of the skin, it might be great for it. The only thing you have to be concerned with hyperthermia is if you have an open wound, and because hyperthermia is killing the cancer by increasing the temperature, but it can also increase circulation. So you don't want, you're just going to watch for bleeding. But hyperthermia, we've been fairly impressed with the results that people are having with it. It's been beneficial. Next question. I've been reading your book, Stop Fighting Cancer and Start Treating the Cause, and I am finding recommendations that seem prudent, but are not in my program, such as modified citrus pectin. Also, same book has a section on Taxol in increasing circulating tumor cells. I have completed 10 rounds of Taxol carboplatin treatments, and I have had good tumor response. I am now very focused and concerned with respect to circulating tumor cells, which is not a part of standard care, and grappling a bit what to do to continue treating as if I have high circulating tumor cells. And what I am learning reading your book, if I were to add one thing for circulating tumor cells to what I'm already doing, would you recommend modified citrus pectin? What would I recommend? Well, modified citrus pectin does have some studies that shows that it can be very beneficial for circulating tumor cells. So you'd have to say that would be a good thing to recommend. Always the concern with anybody is that you don't want to be taking too many things that are overwhelming your liver. The good thing about modified citrus pectin is it's not something that's going to overwhelm your liver. So it is something that anybody could take. It's easy to take if you're already drinking a smoothie. You can throw it in your smoothie. Or if the only negative thing is it doesn't dissolve in water at all. It'll dissolve and mix with your smoothie if you got other stuff in there, no problem. But if you're going to take it straight, you can't put it with water. It won't dissolve. You'll be very frustrated. If you put it with a little bit of orange juice, it dissolves instantly. So, but if you have a smoothie, you could take it with that. So yes, you could do that. At this point, you may not have very many circulating tumor cells, so you don't really need to be as concerned about that. Circulating tumor cells, at least from my understanding, typically surface at a more early stage. So if you got a lot of dying cells, you're already, you have less circulating tumor cells. Also understand that you're using the Rife that is helping your body attack circulating tumor cells already. So not everybody needs to directly deal with circulating tumor cells with something like modified citrus pectin, but it is something that it's easy to add to anybody's protocol. And it really has no taste. I am still balancing hormones after my last big swab recheck. Balance is improved, but I have also continued with chemotherapy, which affects my hormones. So I'm still having night sweats. Some nights I am dripping wet with sweat and hugging my Rife bulb to my chest. Any concern with Rife getting wet in this way? No, because it's the bulb. There's no, you're not going to get electrical shocked through that. If you're having night sweats like this, you're definitely having hormone fluctuations, and it's typically because of a drop in estrogen, which honestly, that is not a bad thing when you're dealing with any hormone-related connections to your cancer. So if you're ER, PR, or HER2 positive, having night sweats and having like menopausal type symptoms, though they are very uncomfortable and not fun to deal with, they are really a sign of these plummets in estrogen levels, which really are kind of what you want. So it's not necessarily a bad thing. So we talk about good pain, bad pain in some instances. Well, this would kind of be one of those good symptoms, bad symptoms, maybe not a pleasant one, but not necessarily one that you want to try to treat. I'm doing coffee enemas daily, sometimes up to 3 times a day. including a plain water enema for constipation. I lay on my side and hold it as long as I can. Sometimes it seems like I void less than what goes in. Yes, so let's talk about that a little bit too. I've had people say, oh my gosh, I did the coffee enema and I didn't even have to avoid anything. Oh my gosh, I've had people that put in 2 cups of coffee into their rectum and then they didn't have anything to void. My comment to that is make sure you're not dehydrated. So if you have any amount of dehydration, you're going to absorb that water and that caffeine in your rectum and in your lower colon. You'll absorb it because you're dehydrated, and then you don't have anything to void out. So make sure that, number one. Let's continue. And I have a full gut feeling, bloated, like there really is fluid there, higher up in my intestines. Is it possible I'm actually retaining fluid in my guts, or more likely that this is inflammation? Feels similar. Yeah, you can be retaining fluid in your guts. Make sure if you are, if you're old, so you're saying you're doing coffee enemas 3 times a day. I really am concerned about this last piece of the first sentence, for constipation. So if you're having constipation issues, then that is a little bit of a concern. I would think I would add some other things to make sure that I'm having a bowel movement and I feel like I'm really emptying my bowels. Sometimes if you got some hard impactions in your bowels, you can have a coffee enema go up and then go around those impactions, and then you're holding water above an impaction. That is not good for you. So go back to my 7 Phases of Detox book and think about things like our phase 6 assist, which is the Cape Aloe product, 250 milligrams of Cape Aloe, adding that to magnesium before you go to bed. If I ever feel like I'm just not voiding the way I should be voiding, I'll take 1 of those with maybe 2 or 3 of the Magna Clear before I go to bed, and a large glass of water, and I just clean myself out the next day. So that's my concern with this question. Last paragraph, I am voiding mostly edible water with some residue, but voiding much less than when my guts were healthier pre-chemo. So I'm not sure I'm voiding enough actual waste. And that's my concern too. And if you got waste in there, it just can become nasty and your body is just poisoning itself. So I would look at that. What I call phase 6 of making sure that you're getting everything right. Chat question came in about hyperthermia. My breast cancer protocol says I tested very beneficial for using it over the liver. Yes. If the liver is deeper in my body, can you help me understand the benefit of using it in my liver? So like I said, maybe I wasn't clear, that typically the liver, part of your liver is under your right rib cage, lower rib cage. And then part of it is closer to the surface. Your lower lobes of your liver are closer to the surface, maybe about 1 inch deep, depending on how large of a person you are. And I said, we used, the biggest reason why we used the hyperthermia when we had people come in the office was over the liver, because it really helped get things moving in the liver. And we've had people, even though I've said that technically I think the heat, the increase in temperature, the cancer killing increase in temperature, maybe up to over 102 degrees Fahrenheit, only goes down about 1 inch with the hyperthermia. We've had people with pancreatic cancer, which the pancreas is even deeper than the liver, have phenomenal results with the hyperthermia. So it might not raise the temperature in the liver up to 102 degrees, but you still increase the temperature closer to the surface, and it causes some circulation, and it can help with liver detoxification. So it can be very beneficial that way. So I'm convinced the hyperthermia can be beneficial literally for everybody, but don't think it's going to necessarily kill cancer cells in the prostate gland, which is much deeper. It's probably not going to kill cancer cells that deep, but it's still helping in a lot of ways. I've noticed I have to go to the bathroom a lot. So opposite question here, especially last month, sometimes in the bathroom 3 to 5 times. I'm only 120 pounds and I'm 5'7". Is there a vitamin I may be taking too many of? So yes. So what will cause this? Well, you can look on the detoxification book, but things like Cape Aloe products or magnesium. So you're not taking Cape Aloe, which is the Super Aloe 250, or what we call the phase 6 assist, or some gut motility products. But the most common thing that people are taking that will increase gut motility that you don't realize that it does is magnesium. So if you're taking a lot of magnesium because you got leg cramps and things like that, well, magnesium is also going to loosen your stool. So, many people are deficient in magnesium and they're taking magnesium. And the way you know you got enough magnesium is you'll dump excess magnesium in the gut, which will draw water and loosen your stool. So that may be an issue. So I'd have to look at your protocol, what else you're taking. But certainly that can be a possibility. But do remember that normal stool, what would be a healthy habit for a person is that you are having bowel movements 3 to 5 times a day. That would be healthy. If you feel like if you have diarrhea, now that's a different story. You're losing your fluid, you're not getting absorption. But if you have solid stools and you're avoiding 3 to 5 times a day, I don't see that as a negative. That's a positive. You are detoxifying well. You're not having too high of an intestinal transit time, which is how you become toxic. So, chat question come in. I have a Therasage 360 infrared sauna. How hot does it have to get in order for it to affect cancer? Typically, you set those at 140 degrees. Sometimes you start out less than that, but typically the Zip Up infrared saunas you set at 140 degrees. There's no, the thing with the saunas, remember, so the benefits of the saunas is to really help with detoxification so that you're in there sweating and that you're getting rid of toxins through the skin and you're bypassing the liver and you're taking pressure off the kidneys and liver. How much are you really raising core body temperature when you're doing a sauna? That's questionable. It's hard to detect. I mean, you could take your temperature under your tongue with a thermometer and then get in the sauna and take the temperature a little bit. Maybe it'll raise it a little bit, but is it just the temperature of the tongue? Is it your core body temperature? It is hard to really get a proper analysis on that. So typically, if you're really going to kill cancer in your body, this person has ER/PR, HER2 negative cancer, I assume, in the breast. Are you really raising the core temperature of the breast? I don't know. You technically, to kill cancer cells, you have to raise that temperature at that site up to 102 to 105 degrees. So I don't know how much cancer killing you're getting on a sauna. Next question. Does it matter how large your stools are? Yes and no. One of the signs of colon or colorectal cancer is that your stools are getting thinner because you have a mass in your colon. So typically you got a pencil-like stool instead of a larger stool. But a lot of things can change stool habits, and a lot of things can change your stool size. So don't become overly technical about that or overly worried unless you have some major changes in your stool that persist. Next question, sauna, how long? Well, typically people start with the sauna to tolerance. Many times when people start using a sauna, they can only do it for 5 minutes and they feel like they got to get out, or don't feel good, blah, blah, blah. It's good to start with anything. You start at small and you work up. Goal is to work up to, theoretically, the goal is to work up to 30 minutes, and you could do that every day. Personally, when I did a lot of saunas, which I certainly don't in the summertime, but I was doing a lot of saunas, I really couldn't go over 20, 25 minutes. I just start to go stir crazy and I have to get out. But I was sweating like a pig too. So lots of times when people start saunas, they don't sweat very well. That's not a good sign. Um, but the longer they do it, then they start sweating. I tend to, a lot of people tend to sweat right away. The whole idea is to sweat. Next question. If it's fine to have a bowel movement 3 to 5 times a day, does it matter if each stool is very small? No, it will be very small unless you're eating a ton of food. So, but again, the whole idea of more frequent bowel movements is that you have a shorter intestinal transit time. So your food that you eat is stayed in your bowel for a lesser amount of time. Of course, there's balance there, because if you eat something that goes right through you and you have diarrhea, you're running to the toilet, well, then you're not absorbing anything of anything you're eating. You're going to lose weight. You're going to not gain your calories. And of course, that's a bad thing. But you also don't want to be avoiding corn in your stool that you ate a week ago, and that's the first time you saw corn in your stool. That's way too long of intestinal transit time, and you are definitely absorbing bad estrogens and all sorts of bad things that your liver's been trying to get rid of for a long time, and you are just killing yourself. So you're much better off having more frequent, smaller uh, bowel amount more frequently through the day, for sure. It's much healthier. Other questions? Just looking real quick at the second question. Number page. We did. A couple of just came in after I did this. So I can address these two. Recently, I heard of ozone treatment for bladder cancer. I don't remember you mentioned this in your book. This process requires a catheter to pump ozone air into the bladder. Also, ozone pumped to the rectum in addition to coffee enemas. What research have you found, and do you believe it's worth the time and the money? Well, ozone therapy has been shown to be beneficial in a lot of things. I have a friend who's an ER doctor who does some um, illegal stuff on the side that injects ozone into joints for people because it can be really beneficial to help increase joint fluid production um, for damaged hips and all sorts of stuff. Um, this person also does ozone insulfation, which is how you get ozone up your rectum. I have had it heard about people doing it for their bladder as well. My take on ozone with cancer is that ozone um, is O3, which is an unstable molecule which will freely give an O negative molecule off. O2 is stable. And it freely gives it off. And what's the benefit of that? Well, it can be very um, pathological. That O negative ion can be pathological to uh, different pathogens. So if you have Lyme disease, ozone therapy can be very beneficial for that. It can kill mold. It can kill mold in your house. That's why you use an ozone generator as an air purifier. But I don't know, I know there are some doctors who use it for cancer, but it's certainly not the only thing that they're doing. I just don't, for me, I just have never been really into ozone for cancer for that reason. I just have a hard time understanding why an oxygen ion would kill a cancer cell. It wouldn't kill regular cells. I don't know why it would kill a cancer cell. So I just, unless the cancer is like fungal in nature or there's a fungal component to it, I'm not a big fan of ozone therapy for cancer. Another question that came in on the member site before I get to these chat questions. I'm wondering about glutathione. I have ER positive, PR positive, and HER2 negative breast cancer. Is it helpful and safe for me to use, specifically liposomal glutathione? So glutathione is your major detox. It's a piece of your phase 2 detoxification in your liver, but it's a major intracellular detoxifier. It's a major intracellular antioxidant. So you certainly cannot use glutathione if you're doing chemotherapy, because chemotherapy kills cancer through oxidation, and you're using an antioxidant. So you can't use it if you're doing chemotherapy, but it's big in the functional medicine community, and it can be very beneficial. As a matter of fact, there's a study that I just read last week about using liposomal glutathione to help get rid of mercury toxicity. And it's just amazing results with liposomal glutathione. Problem with glutathione historically is that glutathione in the sources that we've had in the past was just not absorbable at all, so it was just not even worth taking. We used to do glutathione in nebulizers, which was very good for the lungs. That wasn't for cancer patients, so that was years ago. We used to do that for autoimmune issues. However, liposomal glutathione, when that has come out now, is just a phenomenal tool for helping with detoxification. So really the purpose of using glutathione for cancer is not to kill the cancer. It's to help with detoxification of other things that could be dragging your body down and hindering your body's ability to kill the cancer. So I don't really see it as a huge, as a big negative. You just want to look at why you're using the glutathione. You're helping with detoxification. Question in the chat regarding sweating in the sauna. I have an infrared sauna and spend an hour per day on average. I'm always well hydrated and sweat profusely. However, my hands and feet, I notice, do not sweat in the sauna. They normally do when I'm outside. Any thoughts? I don't know. I haven't noticed whether my hands or feet sweat when I'm in the sauna either. You do have, you have definitely have more. So you have different types of sweat glands, understand. So you have the saline glands that are on the majority of your skin. And then you have different glands, these oily glands that are underneath your armpits and between your legs. And think of the purpose of those, why God gave those to us. So you sweat differently with oil underneath your skin and underneath your armpits and between your legs, because if you're running and you're hot, you need lubrication there. But the purpose of sweating in the rest of your body is to cool your body, because when water is on the outside of your body, it has to evaporate, and the process of evaporation decreases the surface temperature 22 degrees. But the purpose of sweating also is to get rid of toxins that are in the tissue too. So you will get rid of toxins in the tissue. I don't know why you don't sweat through your hands and feet. I have to think about that a little bit. I don't know if there is a physiological reason there or not. Or you just have more fluid in the rest of your tissues. I'd like to bring a coffee concentrate on vacation with me. Would that be possible? Oh, yes, as long as you keep it sealed and as long as, you make sure that it doesn't spoil. So if you keep it refrigerated or in a cooler where it's keeping cold, you certainly don't want it to mold or anything like that, but that's definitely possible. Can cancer cells use glutathione to their own benefit? Possibly, yes. So that's a possibility that you do have to be careful of. That's one theory, and I do talk about that in the book, I think, about cancer cells using glutathione to help detoxify some process that you're using. And that'd be more apt to happen if you're using an oxidative uh, nutrient to kill cancer, like Protocell is an oxidizing nutrient. Or if you're using chemotherapy, you certainly don't want to use glutathione because it's such a strong antioxidant. Is there a difference between cancer cells and tumor cells? Yes and no, it depends on how you're defining it. So some of the medical definitions are a little bit gray because of over time, they've been changed. So over time, so back in the 30s and 40s and 50s, cancer and tumor were synonymous terms. Technically now they're not as synonymous, though still doctors and even research papers use them synonymously, but technically a cancer is considered a malignant disease, meaning the cancer is cells that are spreading and replicating um, uh, at a higher rate, where a tumor is defined as cells that are abnormal but are not in a high state of replication. So that's like the difference between a malignant cancer and a benign tumor. So most writings about the subject will use those adjectives before the noun in order to give greater definition because it is the two terms have been used so synonymously in the past. Coffee concentration, thank you. What ratio might I use for the coffee and water to make the concentration? Yeah, I don't know if um, you could certainly do a 2-to-1 ratio where you just have to add water, as let's say you take a pint out and you have to add a pint, or a cup out, you have to add a cup. However you can concentrate it um, to be able to to make it easiest for you when traveling. What have you observed the body to do when one is nearing the end of the black sap process? My last eschar took 5 days to come out, barely any pain, much less yellow stuff coming forward. I'm hoping I'm near the end. Yeah, so what you'll notice is that the the when you're at the end of the process, you'll put the black salve on, and then it's like you know what it has been doing each time, and now you're going to be like, this isn't doing anything. This isn't doing anything. And 3 days later, it's kind of falling off. The black salve is kind of falling off, and it's didn't do anything. You may, because you've done this so much, try to reapply it and see if you can get anything else. You certainly don't want to. I think it's an error to let it heal up and then reapply it. You have it closest to any left cancer cells as possible. You want to continue to reapply it, maybe 2-3 times. until it's like, okay, this is not doing anything. And you notice even when you're applying that, the second or third time, that it's healing, it's starting to heal up, and you're noticing that you start to see a little scar tissue that is taking place because the black salve isn't doing anything, because the black salve won't react to healthy cells. It'll only react to tumor cells. So you'll know that, okay, I've reached everything that I could possibly reach. Hopefully I've gotten everything out. I have bird feeders outside my window, and I'm kind of addicted to birds. So I've put up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 bird feeders out here. Yesterday morning, there was 9 blue jays. Blue jays must be ground feeders, because most of them were on the ground. A couple of them were on the different feeders. There was one on the feeder that was, the other ones must have said, you get up there and shovel food to us, because he was literally with his beak just shoveling food out of, bird seed out of my feeder onto the ground, and they're all eating. It was just hilarious. But it's like, okay, that's where all my bird seed is going. So I go through a lot of bird seed, but a lot of very pretty birds here. So I wish I could show it to you. All right, any other questions? Just a reminder, if you haven't jumped on the Mondays Zoom call at noon Central Time with Ann, details are on the members only site under the Zoom calls for you to do so. They're also recorded and posted up there for you as well. And she will go over any questions. And if you don't feel that you have an adequate answer, I will go over it too. If you don't feel I give you an adequate answer, which I probably don't most of the time, just have to apologize and just do the best I can. So, all right, I will be praying for all of you. Have a great afternoon, the rest of the afternoon. Enjoy the sunshine. Hopefully it's sunny where you are. I'll be praying for all of you, and we'll see you next week.